Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
The First Lady of New York Radio, Joan Hamburg, entertaining and informative. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Welcome, everyone, to the Joan Hamburg Show. We have Passover, we have Easter, we have holidays coming up. And I love to talk to Joan Nathan, who's one of the great foodies in this country and very interesting, a cookbook author of so many cookbooks, a contributor to the New York Times. And I'm sure that if you go back to Joan's roots, that you wouldn't think from all the things that she studied that she would end up being a major player in the world of food. A master's degree in French literature and public administration from Harvard, worked for a lot of political people, like mayors, including our own Mayor Abraham Beame in New York City. So no one has had a more interesting career than the one and only Joan Nathan. And it's still going strong. I'm sure that when you got out of school, it didn't enter your mind that you were going to be one of the leading authorities on Jewish cooking in America.
Absolutely not. No way. In fact, I'm just finishing a memoir that's coming out in a year, just 1 year in March, called Joan Nathan, A Life in Search of Recipes. And it talks about all the things you were just saying. It talks about all the different facets of my life and how I ended up in food. So,
but it's interesting because I was saying to my children not long ago, many of their friends and even the generation right on back of them have life plans, quote unquote. But many of us just let life happen to us. When you were a kid in school, you didn't say, I'm going to grow up to be Joan Nathan, the big food authority, right? I mean, your path took you so many different turns. And
it just happens, you just do a good job in whatever you're doing and have a little bit of, I don't know, my life just happened.
Right, but you let it happen and you went along with it.
Well, and you have to work hard too. But I honestly think I never wanted anything but an interesting life. That's it.
But then where did the food come from?
Well, read my memoir. My father was German born, and he liked to eat. He liked to go to restaurants. Like he liked taking me to I'm sure you knew La Potinière in New York. And
of course.
And my grandfather liked to take me to Hungarian restaurants up on, in Yorkville. And I love the horn and heart arts, so that was something. I guess food and people were the two things that I always liked. And I liked being together as a family and talking about food and cooking and I don't know. But I also was curious about my own background and other people's backgrounds. And I never think of like a recipe. It's just something on a plate. It's what it led to that plate. And that's what's interesting to me.
Right. And every recipe has a story.
And every recipe has a story. So right now, as we're talking, we're preparing for Passover in my kitchen, or prepare Passover and also the end of when my kids are coming home. And, I'm doing all these old recipes, like an old fish recipe from a Sephardic Jews with preserved lemon in it and olives and peppers, and it's going to be delicious. And And then another recipe I just got I was just in Israel, and it was a risotto from Jerusalem with all kinds of grains that we never use, like fricka, which is the parched wheat of the Bible, and it's sort of an ancient risotto. It's not really a risotto, but sort of a risotto. So that's the kind of thing I'm always looking for, and I, and it's true. It tells a story, and that's what actually Passover and Easter do, was tell stories. And the other thing that I really like is sort of getting in touch with the cyclical year, the natural year, cycle year, and so when you were talking just now about Easter and Passover, all the eggs, because chickens lay eggs at a time when there's more grass, and that's in the early spring, and so we have all these eggs to use, and so both Easter and Passover use them.
But what is there a symbolism of eggs? Is it fertility? Is it? I mean,
right. It's fertility. It's fertility mostly, but also the sort of the circular part of the year, circle of the year, and the circle of life.
The circle of life. And you are busy now changing, I take it, your kitchen. Could you explain what that is?
What I do is I don't change my kitchen, but what I do is I put a certain part of the kitchen, I'll clean it off and get rid of everything, and we'll just cook there right now for whatever we're doing for Passover. But I try to get rid of everything that's fermented, or like I've already been through my freezer and just moving things around so that I have two freezers, so that I'm using one freezer for Passover and one not for Passover. I try to do spring cleaning in my house,
and this
but
is
I'm
excuse.
not such a stickler, but I do as much as I can, and I don't change dishes. But everybody knows that it's Passover, and I keep Passover for 8 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I do it in my own way.
And do your children come home? Do they have favorites? What do you do?
Well, they actually, that's funny. I just wrote to all of them and their spouses to see what food does Passover mean to you? And my son said matzo balls and chicken soup. And then my daughter-in-law said, I have made this wonderful egg and spinach. It's just delicious. And she said that's what it means to her, the spinach and eggs. And which is an old Sephardic recipe where the eggs are cooked for hours and hours. And then, let's see. And then other people did a flourless chocolate cake. So it was kind of fun to see what everybody liked. Because then I think about what am I going to be making, for Passover, because we have 35 people coming.
Yeah, and what basically do you think that you might do? Do you do a fish? Do you do a turkey?
I do. Well, we have a gefilte fish in the Tuesday before Passover. 6 women come to my house every year, and we all make gefilte fish, and it's really fun. It's the only time we do it in that way, in the very traditional way. And then I do chicken soup with matzo ball. Oh, we start out with the eggs in the salt water with the spinach, and that's from the island of Corfu. And then I'm going to do brisket, and I'm going to do this chicken pandora that's in one of my books with, my daughter-in-law is kosher, so I'm getting all kosher meats for the Seder. But the chicken has got sun-dried tomatoes and artichokes in it. And so we're going to make that brisket. And then everybody's going to bring
something.
Invited is they're going to bring salads, and they're going to bring vegetables and desserts. So, because I need some help, right?
It sounds like you need a lot of help.
And I've also asked everybody to try to bring some traditional recipe from their family.
Yes.
But half of the people that come aren't Jewish. A lot of them are not Jewish, that are, married to somebody who's Jewish or are interested in the Seder. There's a very new, well, I'm not going to say her name, but a very well-known poet who's not Jewish wants to come. And, I love my Seder. So.
And who leads the Seder? The kids? Do you?
Well, now that all my kids are going to do it, and then we have a cousin she knows a lot about it. But this year, the head of, he doesn't know it, but I'm going to ask him to help in some way. He's the head of the Department of Judaic Studies at American University. So he might do it. But my kids will do it. They all know a lot.
Right.
And my daughter Daniela's wife she's amazing, and she knows. So they'll all do it. Alan did a great job, but he's no longer here, so we have to, do something else.
Do it. And don't forget, for those listening, Passover is the story of the Israelis' departure from ancient Egypt.
And it's really the most important. It's how the Jews became Jews, going from slavery to freedom, and so that that's an important event. I just came back from Israel, and I was in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and I hadn't been there in years and years since I worked for Teddy Kollek in the 70s. And I walked into the church, and I realized that the church are also the last 3 or 4, I think it's 3, the places of when they walked to when he was crucified, and then showed where he was resurrected. And it was very, very meaningful going there because, he was a Jew and he went through what he wanted. And so many people have gone through that throughout the centuries.
Right. And I'm talking to Joan Nathan.
The Stations of the Cross, that's it.
Right. And the Passover meal, the Seder,
that was the last meal.
Right, the last meal, and the removal of leavened products, and they substitute matzah for bread, right, and then tell the story of the Exodus.
Right, and you're not supposed to have anything leavened, but it's not leaven; it's really fermented. So you can't have like fermented pickles, or you can't have fermented dough, or and very religious Jews will not eat matzah balls because they feel that at Passover that's really fermenting. And so they're all different traditions all over the world, and what you can eat and what you can't eat. It's just amazing, and it's pretty interesting.
Yes, without question. And Passover is on sundown, April 5th. Right? And it goes to April 13th, does it?
Right.
Yes. Okay. Well, it's something, and we always love to check in and see what the Nathan family is going to eat and what they're going to do. I remember during various holidays, you would organize plays and the kids would do theatrical events.
Now the plays, now the kids are grown up, but their children are children. So we're going to have the play, and we're going to do it outside. We did it outside last year. I want to see how cold it's going to be, if it's going to be cold enough. I mean, too cold to do it outside. But I'd love to do it outside. And it was wonderful because the kids would run around, and it was fabulous. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we'll be able to do it outside this year. and with wonderful, with wonderful people. And, one year for my Seder, after the play, I could see nobody wanted to leave. And I felt that it was because we don't have meetings together as a group. We're so separate, don't you think? I mean, I know your family, they're not, but the way that we live, we had all come together for this evening, and nobody wanted it to end.
I know, that's
and
the end.
And so all my kids are coming there. One lives in New Orleans, the other two live in L.A., and they're all coming for the Seder.
Well, I love that. It's fantastic. And you're right, our family, because we grew up like that, all the cousins still, wherever they're from, try to make it in for this holiday. And as Joan Nathan pointed out, there are Jews and non-Jews, but it's all about the family, the togetherness, the Seder, the tradition, and of course, the food. I mean, we're still talking about what we should cook or what we should make. My daughter said, I just made a chicken with prunes, apricots, and apples. That was really delicious.
Well, that sounds perfect.
Yeah, maybe we'll do something like that and get away.
I think that what's really important is to have a few recipes that say, this is my family, that you use every year, and then the rest you can try new things with. And I always make this thing called a kremslach, which
What's
is
that?
It's like a matzah donut that my father always had in his family, and my mother learned to make it, and I make it every year. It's really hard because I have so much to do, but I do it at the last minute, and I try to take time to think about my dad. And everybody loves it, and whatever's left over for dinner, they have it for breakfast with prunes, stewed prunes, and it's like this crispy donut it's a crispy matzah donut with apricots and prunes and raisins and nuts. It's really delicious.
Oh my gosh, it sounds absolutely delicious. I was taking a writing course, and one of the assignments was something like this, persistence of memory, family holidays. And I remember that the last time we did this, I was standing in my kitchen. I was on the phone as usual. It was tucked under my chin. One hand was in the freezer testing the ice cream, in case something new had happened. And on the other hand, when it was free, because the phone was being held by my chin, I would be preparing food. And my breakfast room is mirrored, all across it. And I looked in that mirror and I saw my mother. And
oh, my God. That's so great.
Right. I was like, what's my mother doing in my mirror?
Oh.
But there she was.
Oh, how wonderful.
And when you're a kid, you say, I'm never going to grow up to be my mother. And of course, I hope when I grow up, I'll be my mother.
I know. Believe me, in my memoir, I realized how, like somebody once told me, the most important person in your life is your mother, no matter what you say, bad or good. And, I think that's true, especially for a woman.
Right. No, it is true.
But I honestly, I think of the way my mother lived her life, and I think about her every single day, and I hope that I can live up to her. Well, she was a great lady.
Well, and you're a great lady, and I love that you came on with us. Happy holiday to you and your family.
The same to you.
I hope I see you soon. Thank you. The one and only Joan Nathan, who is a very well-renowned cookbook author, writes for major publications, including the New York Times, has her own memoir coming out in a year, and we're going to look for that, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, my dear. Coming up next is wonderful actor Danny Burstein, who's starring on Broadway in Pictures from Home. Stay tuned.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.